on for the enactment of each portion of the proposed act? No,
That's the first one I've ever heard that question. It makes sense. Do you commit to vote in favor of the Enumerated Powers Act, H.R. 450? I haven't read the act, to tell you the truth. It requires each and every act of Congress contains a concise definite statement of the constitutional authority relied upon for the enactment of portions. That makes sense. Makes sense. I haven't seen it anyway. I haven't read the bill, but it seems to make sense to me. And I'll have to read this. I have to read the full bill before I commit to anything, as you asked me earlier. Read the bill. I'm trying to have it yet.
And a couple of questions related to the federal. A couple of questions related to the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve System, created in 1913, has never had an independent audit.
Right, we have to audit it.
Would you support a full government accountability audit of the Fed,
Yes.
like was proposed in Senate Bill S-604?
Yes, I read that one, yes.
And then going along with that, do you support a gold, silver-backed currency to keep government in check and our money system sound?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, I haven't studied what would be required to achieve that. It sounds sound, but I haven't, I haven't studied it enough to see what would be required to be able to do that. So I can't answer it fully. It sounds sound, but I don't know if it's very much on it.
To do what?
Look, here's the problem we have with the deficit, too, and it's because it's not backed and people just print more money. In a couple of years, they're going to do two or three things. What they may do is, if the debt gets so gigantic, they could just devalue our currency. If they devalue our currency, that means if we owe $20 trillion, it's the equivalent now of $10 trillion, for the Chinese, whatever they're going to pay back. But the problem is, every one of us, all your homes, all your savings, everything is worth half of that. I was in the southern cone of Latin America. Right after 2001, I went back to Latin America, where I was serving. And I was there when the Argentinian economy collapsed. I was with the ambassador side by side, was involved in many of the talks as all of this occurred. It was in Argentina and Uruguay. And it was instructive for me to understand what happens when an economy collapses. What they did was they devalued the currency. They pulled what they called the corral around the banks. What that means is nobody can go to the bank for the next 3 weeks. Your money now is devalued. It's only worth 1/3 of what it was before, and now you're only allowed to take $100 a month out for the next 2 years. What individuals did then was they ran to judges to get court orders for the very wealthy that could try to get their money out. Some of them succeeded until they stopped that. Then what happened is contagion. Because individuals who were Argentinians had money hidden over in the banks in Uruguay and in those banks in Punta del Este. So what happens to those banks? Money pulls out of there and they collapse. It was, I lived through that for several months and watched several governments collapse. We have to really be thinking, as I said before, economic security. We cannot be overstretched. We may have to pull back somewhat to ensure that our economy is solidified here. That everything we do is understanding the long-term consequences of the investments. We have to stop borrowing so much money. We have to live within our means. We can't be wasting money. You can't allow government to waste money the way it does.
Okay, I think you're probably well qualified to answer. How do you feel about the mosque being built at Ground Zero?
The biggest problem with the mosque at Ground Zero, there's several problems with it, and I do not support it being there. I don't think it should be there. I believe in religious freedoms. Many of my best friends are Muslim Americans that served in the CIA with me and that fought Al Qaeda and the Taliban with me. They believe in the Constitution. They believe that America is a country of excellence. And they wouldn't put a mosque across from there. They would know that this was something that was not helpful at all. The problem with the mosque across from the country there is that militant organizations are going to see that mosque and they're going to attempt to infiltrate it immediately. It will become an observation post on what will become a shrine for us to thousands of people that died. I have many dear friends who are Muslim Americans. They are loyal. They have fought for our country. do not support putting that mosque there. New York City officials that state that it presents no problem are not telling you the truth, or do not see the reality, or do not realize that a great problem that we have is Muslim communities in America. Even though many Muslim Americans stand up and fight for America, many of their leaders in America have not policed their own communities, and there are extremists among them. This is the problem that we have with that mosque.
Okay, thank you. A couple questions related to the oil spill and the cleanup. How was it handled? What would you have done differently? And do you support drilling for oil in the continental America and Alaska?
The President of the United States failed miserably to recognize in the early days of that crisis that it was a crisis. It's something that we call in the military and in the national security area, a failure of command alertness. Your job when you're in charge is to recognize what's happening, what's the next phase, what's the worst case scenario, and to prepare for it. Instead of going to the journalists' dinner 2 nights later and telling jokes, they should have been on their way down there to get an understanding of what this was all about. It was 6 weeks almost before they really even started to focus. I saw on television James Carville, it was day 39, said, when the President of the United States realizes what this is and starts to act, it'll be his finest hour. That may be one of the most foolish things I've ever heard him say. Crazy things, but that was it is the fact that they have turned down skimmers, they have turned down all of these things is a problem. Another problem, though, is BP. A big problem with BP. Today on the radio I heard, as I was coming over, I think it was Larry Kudlow's show, they were talking about the fact that BP had 650 safety violations. Exxon, American company, in the last 10 years, 1 safety violation. One. Sunoco, I think it was Sunoco or another one, there was Citgo, had maybe 5. But these guys were operating on the fast and loose. That's what it means. The President of the United States can't be blaming George Bush for this. He's been the President of the United States for almost 2 years. Oh, the Bush administration. Oh, shut up already. Nonsense. Nonsense. President failed the handling of it. This is a catastrophe. It's sad. Many members of my family live in Louisiana. They lived in that area. They live in Houma, Louisiana. One of my mother's sisters married a man from there. Another one of my mother's sisters married it. I have cousins there, uncles, aunts that all live in Houma, which is in that area. They've all worked on the oil rigs. My brother's been down there, worked on oil rigs. There were saturation divers that did the construction on these things. They're my people, my family, half of them. I'm from New York. We got half the clan up here and the other half down there. So it just breaks my heart to see this. It really is. The fact that President Obama has stated that he put a moratorium for 6 months on this is going to destroy the economy. Because what's going to happen to those rigs? Brazil. They'll be under their way to Brazil shortly. They'll be towed down there. Because there's a ton of oil offshore there. That's where they'll go. There'll be tens of thousands of jobs lost in the oil industry. Fishing's going to be destroyed, all of this. This is a colossal failure of leadership, colossal failure of regulation. Safety regulations. Look, they knew there was 650 security. Look, we had safety procedures, or regulations that people were supposed to be following, and people didn't follow up. How much money did the Obama people get from BP? Good question. Take a look at that one. A whole lot of money from BP, this administration, okay? But they want to blame it on Bush and Cheney. Do I support continued drilling? Yes. We need energy. It shouldn't, but the problem was is environmentalists pushed us so far offshore, it got to a point where they couldn't fix it there. It's got to be in areas where you can fix it. If we've been doing this in Anwar, we just fixed the problem. Okay, maybe you'd have a couple hundred barrels, spilled or something like that, you clean that up, but the fact of the matter is, in Anwar, you could just fix it, it'll be on shore. We, unfortunately, are still in a petroleum-based economy. All right, we're not off of this yet. We need energy. For New York, natural gas. The shale, right, all across. This is where you need to go. It's got to be natural gas. It is cheaper energy, it's cleaner energy. and have to do natural gas. It'll provide a lot of jobs here.